Welcome everyone to February Chess Club, 5D Chess Club. As you know, this started out as a little discussion group and it's kind of grown in the topics that we bring forward. And I've been bringing guests on every month or every other month. And tonight we have a really special guest who is doing incredible work. Um, One of the things I love to use our platform for is highlighting people who are creating true solutions to important issues, real issues that we're facing as a humanity today. And one of those issues is not only healing for us, but the issues going on with our bee population and why that's so important. It's not just important, it's essential for our planet and for the human race. And our guest tonight has done incredible work in frequency technology and bringing that forward to save the population of the bees. And I'm just so excited uh, to have Brent Knudsen on tonight. He is from 4RBs and he is a visionary leader. He saw early on that math, quantum physics, and frequencies would be shaping our future. And after building and selling one of Canada's largest payment processing companies, he turned his focus to his passion, exploring how sacred geometry and quantum energy can help heal people and the planet. And so today, I am so honored to introduce Brent Knudsen. Hi, Brent. Thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you so much for having me and again to introducing me to all your wonderful people and your audience so that we can share what we're doing and where we came from. And it's just a pleasure to be here.
Oh, thank you so much. I would love to start with the basics on what is going on with the bee population. For people who don't know, um, why are the bees dying off? Or is their immunity compromised? And what kind of impact does that have on us globally? Like, why is this so important for those who aren't aware?
Yeah, well, I was introduced to the issue in 2015, so a little more than 10 years ago. It was not how I started out, and we'll talk about that as to my background. But I was made aware by friends and colleagues that there was a real problem with bee loss that was not normal and that was starting to continue like year after year. And I started looking in on it. And to answer your question, there's many reasons, multiple reasons for the loss, which ties into frequency because it has to do not only with pesticides, but then 5G we find is an issue, just like it is with us. Environment-wise, the bees were being stressed by loss of habitat, food sources, and pesticide use, and then 5G, and then from nature, what are called varroa mites, which then only are because of a weakened immune system. The same as we're attacked by flus and so forth on our weakened immune system, they're getting the same thing. And so, what it means to us, the bees are more than just that they pollinate 70% of all our foods, that are essential for us, but they also are an indicator of ecological health, what's going on out there. So it's a trigger back to us because they are supported by the same things we're supported by in our own beehive. So each little place that we're sitting in right now for all of you, that's our beehive, right? It's our beehive, and we're coming and going like they are and being exposed to different things, whether that's foods and in environments and chemicals, which we live in a world of chemistry right now. And that's the indication the bees are giving us a big heads up, like, hey, take a look at this. So I hope that sort of, without going too far into it, that's kind of the summary of it.
You're muted, Katie.
I'm sorry. My
Oh, no
dog was
problem, Kate.
barking, so I didn't want everyone to hear that.
Yeah.
um, you know, Again, this is just something that's not out there enough. Um, One of the things that's fascinating about the bees is the honey they produce and the pollen that they produce. And the healing properties within honey and bee pollen. I take bee pollen every morning.
Mm,
It,
mm.
could you share some of, I know as part of your for our bees, you have honey that you sell as, like a healing tool that we can have. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, yeah, and we'll go into like where this all comes from, but the hives that we put the technology of the pure wave cell, and we'll go into speaking about that. All the beekeepers, and we have beekeepers all over the world that we support now. We'll talk more about that. We're about 4 years. We started for our bees 4 years ago, so it's not like I've been the doing the research for over 20 years, but we started the bee programs and supporting the beekeepers so that everything that we sell and that we promote is going back to the beekeepers because we give all the technology to them at no cost. So out of that, those hives, we derive this wonderful honey, a product out of because it's super high energized hives and immune systems to the bees, and then we creamed the honey so we never had to heat it, so it stays where it's never been broken down enzyme wise, and then we used our frequency technology on it to have it as the high integration, and so it's considered, and we get feedback all the time, the greatest honey of tasting and effect that anybody's ever had, and it's special because of the different things we do, and we pay a premium to the beekeepers for it because if you're going to save the bees, you have to save the beekeepers. They control about 96% of all bees. So if we don't focus in on them economically, this is a real problem. And so that's what we do. We've started at the root, which is let's look after them so that they can build up and then use the technologies to take care of the hives and then build up the immune systems. And then that's led to the honey. Back to your question, that we have a premium honey that is now honey is amazing property for healing, whether it's on skin care or a gut health. But it's also just incredible that this level of honey, the feedback we get, what it does for people, and what it takes, what it takes for them to just have one spoonful of it a day, and not to use it in hot water or their coffee. That you eat with our honey, you eat it. You don't put it in as a sweetener. You'd use something else for that. But the properties and the feedback in the research is amazing.
Yeah, it's incredible, I want you to share a little bit more about the technology, the frequency technology that you're using with the power of the magnets and how it's strengthening the immune system. Because what I want everyone to understand is that the immunity of the bees is so important to battling these pesticides and toxins because we can't necessarily control if other people are going to be spraying them because there's so much ignorance around this topic that people don't know that they're killing the bee population when they're using them. And so the part of the genius of Brent's solution here is that he knows he can't get rid of all the toxins. So let's strengthen the bees from the inside out and supercharge them so that even when there are toxins and there's pesticides, they are able to sustain and still live healthy. So Brent, can you share a little bit about how that technology works or came to be?
Yeah, well, I think this particular audience will like this because you described what your audience and their knowledge is. So I'm going to start out this way. Right now, we have been forced to live in a world of chemistry. What I mean with that is that we're in pharmaceuticals and chemicals, right? So a lot of you can remember there used to be a term called exploratory surgery. You remember, like, there's a term explore. They used to cut you open to find out what was wrong with you. Well, they don't do that anymore. They use frequencies to do that. They use MRIs, CAT scans, and so forth. So they've gone to frequency medicine to diagnose, but then when they treat, they go right back to chemical. So they switch right over back into chemical. So those two things have to join. So you've got treatment with frequency, and then, diagnosis with frequency, and then you've got to have treatment with frequency because that's what it all is. Because everything is a diagnosed frequency. So when you talk about the bees and their immune system, and this is going to be exciting, you're going to see at a cellular level they're identical to us. They start out exactly the same, and I'm going to talk about that. Not only them, reptiles, plants, anything organic. Hmm? So my background, it was in forensic mathematics, where it led me into in the late 80s and 90s. I was doing all the algorithms for debit and credit machines. So, how to move money and digits and so forth around. And it became, it was really into the modern banking of what we use today. But through that whole process of that I was involved with the math, I always kept seeing these same through those algorithms, these same patterns kept coming up and looking over and over because everything is math. And then it led me into a thing called sacred geometry. Sacred geometry is where that led me to. And through sacred geometry, I started to see the principles of particular. What I was looking for was consistent patterns that was being seen everywhere. And I mean everywhere, in nature, religions, law enforcement, everywhere, corporate symbols. They were all they were all there. And as I went down that rabbit hole, I started to discover key frequencies that work that our cells respond to. In other words, that when you hold, because frequencies are chaotic, and then you are able to bond them in certain ways. So you either have to bond them with electronically, which with PEMF mats do that, or you have to use magnets, some kind of a glue force. And I decided that because I was so into ancient history and symbolisms, I looked at it and thought, now back in before our history, what would they use to bond things with? Now, crystals is one, but magnets was the other, the actual earth magnets that we talk about. And so and I'm speeding up here, but what I was able to do was, and over my shoulder here, you can see this design up here. It's not the perfect flower of life because it really was in the design of the petals that I needed to compose into the magnets. I needed to get a really powerful magnet, which I got these neodymium magnets because they'll hold their strength for 20 years and they're super strong. So by getting them in that pattern, the geometry, I could hold a specific frequency and bond it to stay there. And that's what I did all the testing, is how that affected us at a cellular level. Now, this picture here is very important because every one of us looking, and all you out there, and every insect, every animal, every reptile, we all start out like this, and that's the first thing we do. That's the first pattern we form when we go into cell mitosis. That is that. Can you see that? So what it is that's our blueprint. That's where we come from, and that's what it responds to. Just like if you had radiation on you, you wouldn't feel it, but you'd start getting cancerous cells because it destroys the cells. Well, this is the opposite. It builds the cells, but it builds it because it comes out of the block of that shape. The shape is so important, and it took us so long to get that right. And I started out not with bees, but I started out just with effects on humans. And I started going down that path. And as I developed that, we started getting great results. And then I built a lab that was called the Chrysalis Lab that blocked out all interferences. In other words, no cell phones, no radiation, nothing would work in there. And I could do my testing. And that I started that in 2008. I was fortunate enough that I sold my company through 2008, and I could then disconnect from the corporate world. And that's the building that I used. And literally, all the geometry is in there. If you actually look at the building, you can see that same geometry is in there. But it's in snowflakes, it's in nature, it's even on law enforcement. Why do you think your law enforcement wears a six-pointed star and so forth? All of those things. Those aren't coincidences. Those are all, that goes so far back to Mesopotamia, and then came into Egypt, and then, of course, into Rome, and then it came into all the traditional religions because it came through all of that. But what it really is talking about is quantum physics. Now we're getting into the atom structure itself. So everything on this planet, this solar system and universe is made up of atoms. So we all are made of the same thing. The frequency is what changes what it is or what we become. And so that is where I wanted to delve into and get the effect. And as I was getting the effects of all of that, I decided that I was having so much fun because basically, Katie, all I did was drop out and it was into discovery mode. So it was some of the best days of my life. It was just, one thing and getting one exciting experiment was then turning into where it was achieving what I was looking for and stuff like that. And then, as I said, in 2015 is when it came along about the bees were having a real problem. And people around me and colleagues were saying, "Hey, you've got to go check this out with the bees." And so I was reluctant to do that because then I knew I'm going to be going back out in the, I like the research, but I didn't really want to get into the business part of it. And so I just got into that, started dealing with beekeepers, and the results were phenomenal with bees that had the cell versus the bees that didn't, and they were producing 5 times the honey. And we have all this documented, and we can do that on different shows. So it was so exciting. And then COVID hit, and I was really, really encouraged to go out and do this as a mission, to set up a mission base, which is what 4RBs is. And I put that together. I thought, well, I've got nothing else going on here in COVID time. And then I thought, well, do I really want to start a mission business and go out and, start doing all of this? And businesses, it doesn't allow you to be as relaxed as when you're just doing research and so forth. And I was hitting my age limit. I'm hitting 70 now, so it was like, okay, well, all right, let's do this. And we started it 4 years ago, and it's been phenomenal. We've got literally thousands and thousands of hives, and with beekeepers, and we get their honey in and we sell it all over the world. Parts of the world we can't sell the honey, but we're asked, we sell it all through North America, and the pure wave cell is going all over the world. We're in Africa, we're in Europe, we're in all through the States, Canada. And it's the public that have come to the rescue and said, this is important to us. And they've stepped up huge to support what we're doing. And then we just finished a campaign where we just sent out about 50, 60 pure wave cells just in the last week or so, last couple of days, to beekeepers starting up their broods. And they give us all this amazing feedback. So I'll stop there, Kay, and then you can ask me more if you want to see some videos and things like that.
Yeah, I would love that. So just so everyone is clear, what you're talking about, the pure wave cell, is this configuration of magnets polarized a certain way
here's the outer case. It just fits in your hand here. And this is the configuration. This is what took me so long to figure out. It actually looks like this. Mm-hmm. Wow. So this is, when you're talking artistic pattern, this is it. And these cuts is then what goes into a formulated disc here in magnets, formulates here, and then goes inside of this. So when you see this, that's this, but it's all of this inside. And these magnets here, if I didn't bond them, they would pinch my finger off, because what they want to do is come together. You know how magnets come together, north-south poles. So by not letting them come together, they're doing this in there constantly. And we've measured all the frequency. We show it. We have the videos to show you what that looks like, because it's invisible. You can't see it. Like if I'm holding it here, you can't see it. But this is to a foot, and then it dissipates out. Very strong. Really strong. And it affects me as a human cellularly. So my cells are constantly being affected. Just like if you're in a bad environment, your cells are being affected. So this is boosting it, because it's food. It's pure food. When you eat food, what is food? What is an apple? It's just energy. Once it breaks down, it's just a frequency. So this is just a pure frequency that's going into the cells, but this is dynamically important, because at a quantum level, it's following a formula, just like a recipe, that the cells respond to. That's putting it in a simplistic way.
Yeah, that's incredible. We are electromagnetic. Our whole around us is magnetic electricity, and magnetizing electricity the way you're doing it is so powerful, and it affects everything. And when you're doing it using certain shapes and patterns. That's why it creates, it's so powerful. And if you're putting those cells, how does that work? It goes under, how does it interact with the bees?
Well, yeah, we'll show you in the video. But the bees we put it in their running boards, so they have to go over it in and out of the hive every time they're leaving and coming back. They're exposed to it. But remember, for a bee, one of those magnets is the size of our entire body, right? It'd be like us being exposed to them within a magnet of that power, because it's a 4,000 gauss magnet. So you can imagine that your whole body as compared to a bee. And so they have this incredible force that they're going in and out of, and we'll show you what that looks like. But back to the cell, just for the audience to note, all of a sudden I said, well, wait a minute. If this is going to be really good for the cells, it should affect food and so forth. So I sent it to a food lab in Quebec, Canada, called Pathogenia. And what I wanted to do is because all of us, when we go to the grocery store, whether we know it or not, with lettuce and fruits and meats, we're getting all kinds of different bacteria and pathogens, such as E. coli or Staphylococcus or Listeria. And it comes home, and a lot of people just experience it as mild food poisoning or indigestion, right? That's why Pepto-Bismol is a big seller, right? Because people are sort of indigestion. So I thought, okay, let's send it down there. And I had them inoculate chicken and raspberries and just put it on the pure wave cell, inoculate it with the different pathogens, put it on the cell for 5 minutes. So just on a plate, put it on the cell, and it was neutralizing different pathogens up to 80 and 100%. It literally, so like, sound canceling headphones, one frequency was coming in, which is the pathogen, and the other frequency was canceling it, which was the pure wave cell, right? And that's what we want to do. Just like in health, what's a virus? What's a flu? It's just a frequency. They call it a virus, but it's really a frequency. And so if you want to counter a frequency, do you want to use a chemical? Or do you want to use another frequency? That's the question, right? So I believe the future is you want to use a frequency. You don't want to use a chemical, because chemicals have side effects, whereas frequencies don't. That's the difference, right? So anyway, that's a whole other topic. But that's why I didn't go down the human healing, because I start going down that path and all I have is constant irritation and involvement. I come from the corporate world. I know how they think, and I know that I would be constantly bothered. The more success I'd have, the more problems I'd have. So I went through the bees, because that's different. That's not humans. They have no placebo. They have no emotional construct. They have no mental construct. So they just do what they do. And so I can get a pure form out of it. I don't have to be, because with us humans, we could be looking at healing something that's wrong with something, but it's really not physical. It's more emotional, or it's more mental. So the problem is you've got to deal with more than one thing. Whereas the bees just strictly go to it, and I can see how pure it's working. So that's why I elected to do that. And now what happened out of that is we have thousands of pure wave cells that people have in their homes, because they saw the correlation. They put it under their pillow. They use it for cleaning their food. It's fantastic for inflammation, because magnets are anyway. And so rubbing it, also for using it for gut health. We have practitioners that have done amazing work with gut health, right? Just because of parasites and so forth like that. Because again, you're getting into those things. So those are things that just domino happened out of it. They weren't the drive. We just started with the bees, and then all these things came out of it, because of course it's fantastic for humans. It's also fantastic for plants. We have people that literally have a plant that's drooping, don't give it water, give it a pure wave cell, and it all rises back up. Because at a cellular level, it's the same thing. So it's been super exciting, and that's come from the field, not even thinking about it. And pets, for your pets as well. Of course, they're the same as us, dogs and cats and all the birds and so forth. We've had all kinds of people use it for them as well. So that was exciting. We have one gal. This is really cool. She lived in New Mexico. She lives in New Mexico. Her name's Savannah, and she does what's called sparrow bird rescue. So people send sick and broken down birds, sparrows mostly, but road runners, to her, and she rehabilitates them and then puts them back into the wild. So she got a hold of us, I think, through some kind of podcast. I'm not sure, but she contacted us, and I spoke with her, and she said, could I get some cells down and see how that helps with me healing the birds? This was about 9 months ago, and I said, sure. I sent her, I think, five cells, and then I forgot about it, and then she sent these wonderful videos home. With this road runner that came in, had a broken wing, and she used the pure wave cell and then released it. So we have all those videos too. But of course, it's going to help the birds because it's the birds and the bees, right? So it's nature. It's all about nature, and if you tap into nature's secrets, it's an amazing thing.
Well, it is, and that's there's this kind of natural healing and putting products out there to help nature thrive.
Yeah.
That's not corporate, and so there's not a lot of profit in that, so it doesn't get out there the way pharmaceuticals do, where it's constant
That's right.
bombardment. So this always has to be done from a grassroots perspective. When we're talking about these types of healing technologies, especially when it comes to things like healing parasites. I'm doing a group parasite cleanse on my Rife machine that's behind. Right. There is a frequency for everything. It's fascinating how everything breaks down into a specific frequency. There's an infinite amount of frequencies, and how even a slight shift can make a big difference. So all this information is fascinating. Have you ever put a glass of charged water on a pure cell and then frozen it and seen if it makes the shape like Beta Austin does? I don't know if you're familiar with her work.
Yeah, no, I haven't done that, but people put water on the pure wave cell, but we haven't done that. What we could do, if you like, we could show a video on the pure wave cell because it includes the bees, and that way, we've done a lot of talking, or I've done a lot of talking, and maybe it would give a lot more profound visuals to what we were saying, so you could see how it is working in nature, and then what we were doing with food labs and so forth, and then we could pick up from questions from there. And whatever somebody's coming from, we generally have videos to show from our people what it looks like.
That would be great. Yes, let's.
Do you want to do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Welcome to the world of inventions for energy medicine. I'm Bea Broda. According to the Canadian Association of Professional Apiculturists, Canada lost almost 50% of their bee population in 2022. Researchers at the University of Waterloo feel insecticides are compromising the bees' immune system. Dr. Magda Havas, Professor Emerita at Trent University School of the Environment, believes magnetic fields also play an important role in the health and wellness of the honeybee population.
We did some research at Trent University where we were studying the effects of radiofrequency radiation on the bees. We had some beehives at a farm and exposed them to current household items that we have that emit wireless radiation. One of the things we noticed is that the bees started coming out of the hive very, very quickly.
You look at their behavior, they're all just quite happily, they're not running around, they're kind of very settled, they're fanning, they're keeping the place cool and protecting, because these ones are running up and down at the entrance. The sounds here is not normal.
Dr. Havas is participating in a long-term research study on the use of geomagnetic fields to enhance insect and human immune systems and negate the effects of environmental pollution that may be causing the collapse of the honeybee population. This research is based upon a geometric array of 12 high-intensity magnets that are encased inside a hard enclosure to create a pure wave cell. The opposing polarities of the magnets create a spiral vortex that emanate outwards in all directions. This spiral pattern can be observed with magnetic viewing film. Liquid ferrofluid placed in a dish on top of the pure wave cell shows the invisible, evenly spaced magnetic lines rising upwards. This is an internal view of the magnets. A pure wave cell can be used to control the growth of pathogens. The vortex suppresses bacterial infestation. Spores grown in a petri dish that were not exposed to the magnet shows a proliferation of fungal growth. A study has been completed at Pathogenia food laboratories to determine the efficiency to reduce pathogens in food. Brewer's yeast, E. coli, Staphylococcus, and Listeria were added to meat and fruit and then treated for 5 minutes on the magnetic disc. Ground chicken and raspberries were chosen for inoculation. This study demonstrates 3 forms of Listeria were not reduced in the chicken, but showed almost a 50% reduction in the raspberries. Surprisingly, 1 form of brewer's yeast grew 50% faster in the meat, while another was reduced a similar amount in the fruit. The various forms of E. coli were eliminated in the raspberries. And all forms of Staphylococcus have been significantly reduced. When you immerse food inside a pure wave, there are many examples of how it can prolong the shelf life. Here, cauliflower remains fresh after several days, while unexposed control samples show signs of food spoilage. Research on honey is carried out here.
The first year we had 10 magnets and we were quite happy with it. Last fall we ended up with 30 magnets in the 1 bee yard.
In this yard here, there's about 30 hives. This yard did not get the discs, and when I came in to unpack the hives, half the yard was dead, and the half that survived, there were barely any bees, and they were not looking good at all. And now in this yard, we wintered 30 hives in here. All 30 got the magnetic disc. When I unpacked it, all 30 were alive and overflowing with bees to the point where I had to split almost every hive in this yard. But it's swarming because they've run out of room. Like, it's just a super strong hive.
Dr. Havas feels that the magnets are improving the immune system of the honeybee as they move through the pure wave magnetic field while foraging for nectar in the farms and forest. Many beekeepers have great success with the magnets, not only having a healthy hive, but they have found an increase in the yield of honey. Education plays an important role with the company that produces the magnets. They organize workshops called 4R Bees to teach a new generation of potential beekeepers how to plant wildflower seeds in open pastures to help support the health and wellness of our insect pollinators. For more information on how you can help save the bees, visit 4rbees.com.
Wonderful.
Yeah, it was so much fun getting out with the kids because, kids, it's hard to hold kids' attention, but not with bees. And I always tell this story. There was a little gal about 6, and that was, I was introduced to her saying, what kind of stuff do you do? Or what do you, and then I started to talk about the bees. And she stopped me and lectured me for 5 minutes on how important that was, right? So that was from a 6-year-old, and that's how ingrained that is, and very excited they are to be around that. But yeah, you can see on that the seeding is important. We provide seeds in areas for the food sources, and queens. We do replacements on building up on queens. So all of these things are important for building up, what we're doing with the bees and making a big change out there. And now we have people contacting us to have tracts of land, like if they have nobody to leave their estate to, they want to leave tracts of land to be frozen for the 4RBs and so forth. So, making a big difference and changes like that really helps. But I think that gives you an idea of how the bees get in and out. And it is amazing the difference between hives with and without. And we finished that 3-year study with Dr. Magda Havas. When that video was taken, we were still in the process, but that's on our site. We finished that 3-year study, and it's defined that it doesn't, because you could get a success with one beekeeper and maybe not another, or a different area, but we are getting it across the board, consistent. And so that got completed. So we were very excited, and we just got that finished about a year ago. So we had a lot to do before we could really, get out there and really promote.
Yeah, yeah. The bees are amazing, and I learned so much about them through a tribal elder here in Georgia, in the North Georgia mountains, who I've spent a lot of time with, and he's a 5th generational beekeeper. And when he takes care of his bees, he doesn't wear anything, like nothing. He won't even have a shirt on, and he feels their frequencies. He talks to them.
Yeah.
He says they talk to him. It's absolutely incredible, and all of the information that he shared on their life and how they work together and the role of the queen. It's profound. And of course, every time I'm with him, it's like a sacred setting. But every time I keep thinking, I wish I had a pen and paper and I could just take notes on everything, he's saying, because it's an incredible amount of information, and they're so fascinating, and it's so important for us. And I would love to open this up for some questions. And the funny thing is, I see a question in the chat already. And I want to tell you guys, before we started, Brent and I were talking, and I was telling him, this group is really advanced. So don't hold back. Just go out there with all of everything you've got. And I said, don't be surprised if a question comes up about the base 10 math with the flower of life, because this group is very well versed in sacred geometry and has done a lot of research and has a lot of experience. And I don't want to use this 5D Chess Club is about the bees and the beekeepers and giving a voice to the voiceless. And this technology is working, and the mission that 4RBs has, that is what this chess club is about. So I don't necessarily know if I want to get into the whole controversy of flower of life, because people get fired up over that. It's a closed loop circuit and this and that. The point is, this technology that they're using with the magnets and the shape is getting amazing results.
Well, yeah, no, Katie, I just like whoever asked that question and stuff, I said, I'm happy to answer it this way. I have never I didn't pursue to go down. It was my personal interest in sacred geometry, but I wasn't interested in becoming a scholar or all the different aspects of what people like to get into with sacred geometry, because it goes way beyond. Typically, of my background, I was into specifically one thing: results. I want results. I want something. So I went down, as opposed to philosophizing, thinking, or what it all is. That's not my expertise, and that's also not my focus. My focus has always been, just like in business, I want results of what I'm looking for. So that's what I did. So I just took the shapes that I felt, because of what I was doing, I went down that and put the energy, time, and money into, and got what I was looking for. And that's really, because again, I would never go on and talk about people. There's way more people that are incredibly professional and spent their lives with sacred geometry. So that is not my focus. My focus was getting a result to something and then going out and utilizing it, and mostly for myself personally, health-wise, because at this stage, health is my number one thing. It's the most important thing to me, more than anything. So I was focused at that stage of my life on health, and so that's what I've been after. And that went off into bees and animals and health, and I kept it simple like that. So I hope I've answered it that way, is that I have no argument on what anybody's talking about when they get into sacred geometry, because that's for other people to discuss and get into if that's their bag. Mine is simply into results of what I'm looking for. So that's if I can answer it that way.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And it's working for your technology, which
it's working.
Yeah. But it's a great question because it's relevant with everything that's out there
Yeah.
and a lot of well,
Well, there's more discovery. There's more to discover, and by people questioning and doing it, they could discover other things. But what I would say is have an intention of what you're looking for. So I had a carving on the building going into the lab, and on the inside, what it said is attention to intention. So people would say, well, geez, people that didn't know, what do you do in that building? And what can you do? And I said, well, what would you do in there? What do you want to do? Well, I don't know. Well, yeah, well, you have to have an intention of what you're looking for and then put all your attention to it, right? So that's how I look at things. But that doesn't mean there isn't a whole bunch of other things that could be figured out, discovered, and miracles that can be done through sacred geometry and what it can do for people from meditative standpoints or from scientific or emotional or mental. It really is an amazing math is everything.
yeah, I love that your the pure cell uses the spiral image because the spiral is so important. That's the shape of our universe. That's the shape of everything. It's the shape of expansion and growth and evolution. So that's the shape we want to look for is this spiral expansion. And so I love that. Um, let's see. What about Dr. Christina Winsey? Would you like to ask a question?
I would. I'm so excited to hear about you and what you're doing. I'm a part-time gardener and I've been frustrated with some of my plants not really growing the way I would like. But also, I make a point of having plants that will attract pollinators. But my interest is it looked like they just put one of your magnets at the base of a hive. And I'm wondering, so is that the entrance that the bees go into? That's my first question. My second question is, how is it used in healing for humans and animals? Do we wear it? Like, how is it used?
Okay. So first question, the average hive has about 30,000 bees in it, roughly, is the average size. So you're quite correct. But there's what they call runners, or the bottom is where the runners are. That's where the bees are coming in and out of. That's how they have to get in and out. So we place the pure wave cell there because it's been measured. It has 12 inches of full power, and then it starts to dissipate. Magnets only can go so far. And by what we do is, there's a great picture for you. What happens is the bees most of the time will congregate close to it. They will pick up on that frequency. So there's how they're exposed to it. And then I'll get back to your second question. They're exposed constantly, daily, in and out, in and out. And then in the wintertime, the disc goes to the top of the hive because that's where they congregate through the winter for when they winterize them, and they all stay up there. And we have pictures of they're all congregated in the spring and they huddle right into it. And that's a good example there. So to answer that question, what we want them is we want exposure. So back to humans, we want you exposed within a foot, like close to you within 12 inches. Now, a lot of people will sleep with it under their pillow, or they'll put a pillow and sit on it. Like, in other words, you're all sitting right now. So if you put a little cushion and then put the cell under the cushion, you're not going to feel that lump. But that's going right through the cushion. So no matter what you're doing, you're exposed to that frequency all the time, through the day or whatever you want to do it. So it's by the exposure. Now, if you had, let's say, inflammation, swollen, or you've injured your arm and it's swollen, not broke, by rubbing it, the moment you move a magnet, now you now will then rise up into motion of the magnets, and it's really great for circulation, things like that. Gut health on the stomach, we have all kinds of, sometime we'll bring back on a couple of practitioners that specialize in gut health and parasites and all the results they've been having with it. And it was something, I was at a show and I wasn't even thinking of that, but it was a health show. And these practitioners came up and said, can we try it for this? Can we do this? Can we do that? And I said, well, yeah, absolutely. And specialized to them. And so they get numbers of them from us, and then they just integrate it into their practice. So that's another way that it's used. Now, food, for cleaning food, that's important, because how can you stay healthy if constantly you're bombarded by what frequencies going in your body, which is your food? So there's a great place to start. So it has multiple uses. For me, it really helps with the under my pillow, because the Wi-Fi and all of that stuff, we're all exposed to, just like the bees. But for me, it really helped with any noise in the ears. I don't have tinnitus, but I had, it helped with any of that, and it clears that up. But that wasn't tinnitus in my case. But I have heard other people that have had that it's helped with that. But again, that's changing the frequency and interference and so forth. I'm just trying to think of some of the other stuff that we've had come in of what it's helped. Now, there is the people that from an emotional level, it's helped them, but those are sensitive people to frequencies and so forth. So there's been that. So we constantly get different feedback from people. And then, of course, animals, they try it with their pets, put it on their sleeping bed, their pillow underneath. We have a whole bunch of things that have come in there. One of the interesting things that came out of it, and it happened to be where it was two young boys, but two different families. The boys were one was 9 and one was 12, and both were suffering from continuous nightmares. Like, they had radical nightmares, and they put it on and the nightmares went away. And that was something that I had no, what that connection, what that means. So I can only surmise that it has something to do with blocking out a lot of pressure of something, of Wi-Fi, or things that might be going on. But I wouldn't say that. But it came from the field, and that would be something that would never ever I would ever have thought was anything to do with anything. But it just happened to be two different people said it, and one was in the States and one was in Canada. So that was interesting. That's just an observation, but just feeding that back to you.
Well, you had said that it has a 12-inch radius or range.
Strength.
If you're sitting on a pillow with it under, it's simply going down up into the lower back and the abdomen. It's not reaching all the way up. It's not there's no way for it to get your whole body all at once.
Well, what happens is that's a good question. But once it enters the body into the cellulars are moving, right? Cells. What this is doing is affecting the cells. I have a whole video on that. With those roughly, 80 trillion cells that are in your body, right? And of course they have, trillions of atoms in each cell. So what that's doing is that's affecting the cells, but those cells are circulating. So when you're getting it up through, let's say, the bottom or the top, that's radiating out through the body. As long as you have contact to the body, those cells. So, and this is, I think all of you probably know this. So roughly 10 billion cells die a day in the body, roughly, so every day you have 10 billion new cells coming into your body. Well, what's that over a month? What's that over a year? You start exposing yourself to good frequencies like that. That's all the new cells know. That's your building blocks, right? So what I was getting when I was working in the lab is people's allergies were going away. Their eyesight was getting stronger. But that's not, the cell is not doing that. All it's doing is building the immune system, and the body's fixing itself. The body is the one that has to fix itself. And I think we all know that. But what we are is we interfere with everything to let the body fix itself. So it's like, okay, so we're having emotional issues, and then we surround ourselves with people that constantly give us the same emotional issue, right? So how do we get rid of that? So the body physically, if we can get those cells working in the right direction, they'll start fixing things for you. And that's because that pure wave cell doesn't heal anything. What it does is just allows the body to function a little better. That's probably the best way to put it. Yeah, that's the way I look at it anyway.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Great question. Colleen, you have a question?
Yeah. So I'm the one that asked the question about base 10 versus base 12.
Oh, okay.
I studied Flower of Life meditation with Drunvalo Melchizedek for years. And I will tell you, I have tons of Flower of Life symbols. And when I went to Egypt, I bought a pendant with that exact symbol on it. And so I was into it for a very long time. And just last year, I started studying a different meditation, which was a base 12 system and again, you know, it's not to put down the base 10 system. My own paradigms are getting challenged with all of this. And so that's why I asked the question, because I'm really trying to like learn more. But it's the concept that the way this has been explained to me is that the base 10 system consumes energy to produce energy. So eventually it dies, whereas the base 12 system does not, because the patterns are slightly different and they're eternal. And so I'm just kind of wrestling with all of this myself, because I was so into all of the Flower of Life stuff for so long, and that's been getting challenged. And so when I think my question got answered when I saw the video and and you used the Flower of Life. And that's not to say there's anything wrong with it, but I'm just asking because I'm learning some new things about all of this. And that was my belief system for a really long time. And so I'm just kind of just asking the question. So I'm not trying to be impertinent about this or anything.
No, not at all. And that's why I was saying, like, pursue that. I'm just saying that I'm not the one to comment on that, because that's not my expertise. What you're talking about is not something that I pursued in that way. I was, although I love those books, and I remember years ago, I mean, in the 90s is when I started, being introduced to that. And, but what I was looking for was, I related, and I have a video on it, I related that really through those algorithms, it really led to quantum physics. It led to the atom itself. If you take the atom where it's doing this and 6 points, that's really 3D of that. I wasn't so much interested in the Flower of Life per se, just the Flower of Life, but I wanted to see what that was on a quantum level and why that might work, or how this would work. And that's why the actual cuts, or the actual way the magnets have to be cut and placed, because when they were off, they didn't work. It could look the same, but it didn't work. So I was more interested in just getting a formula, so that the magnets could grab it and hold it, and then see what that did, out in the real world. So that's kind of what I was pursuing, more so than, sacred geometry, because there's so much more to that in buildings and structures. I actually used it in the building for lights. I had crystal inversions where I was doing all the chakra colors, and it was great for melatonin, serotonin. But again, it was just getting results that I was excited about, more so than pursuing, a philosophy or a principle, I guess,
Yeah. Well,
but definitely pursue it. So for you, pursue it.
And anything that works for the bees is great, because I used to have bees around my house all the time. I've lived here for 20 years, and they're all gone now.
Yeah. Well, and what's great about insects is they have no placebo, right? So it's just, when you work with them, you're either going to get a result or you're not, because they don't have any confusion to anything else, right? So that was great. And same with animals. That's why it was so interesting about the birds, because when Savannah was doing that, I was really curious just to see, would she get those results? And she did, because again, animals just function as they do. You're either going to get a result or not. Humans are, as we all know, are different because of other elements emotionally and mentally that come in. That's trickier stuff for trying to get a consistent, something consistent working. And as you say, once you start going to, what I call the SQ, the spiritual intelligence. So you have your IQ intelligence, so you have your EQ emotional, but the SQ that you're referring to is wonderful stuff, but tricky stuff, right? It's a little bit more interesting,
Okay, thank you.
No, that's a great question. And I love this group because we can share and talk about different perspectives and not
Oh
get
yeah.
and respect everyone's opinion. And
Yeah.
that's what this is all about, learning and bringing it all forward.
Yep. That's right. Now, if there's anything we have, what do we have? We have some things that we could. There is something that may interest you, and Colleen, that may interest you. We have a video called "The Story We Need to Remember," which shows where we took all these, where I saw it in religion, where I saw it in nature, and then how I related that to then quantum physics, and so forth. And I just put a video together on that, which was my journey to figuring out the pure wave cell. So that may be of interest, or you may want to hear more from the beekeepers or whatever you'd like to do.
Yeah. I think it's fascinating when you were talking about the pure wave helping people with their nightmares or helping children with their nightmares. That's fascinating. Visualizing it, creating this field, almost like a protective field,
Mm.
in 4D when we're going to sleep. It's interesting that would be interesting to pursue a little bit more because a lot of people have psychic attacks or nightmares or things happen when they go to sleep. So there's so much to this, and there's so much to frequency medicine that we're just at the tip of the iceberg with it, really. And when I do all of my healings using the Rife machine, I always recommend don't use another frequency technology during that small window because we don't know what could happen, or they might, we just don't have, there's not a lot of data. And like you were saying, Brent, there's so many factors that go into if you're trying to get a result. Doing a scientific method with something, there's all different frequencies at play and so many different variables. But what you've done, your data is pretty crisp and clean, and it's understandable. And this is a real issue. It's an important issue. Um, and uh, and I think Carrie has a question too. Did you want to say something, Carrie?
Yes, I did. I didn't know how to indicate that.
Yeah.
I also do frequency medicine, and I was just wondering if you had done this as well in making your, what are you calling them, pods or things?
Pure wave cell?
Cells.
Yeah.
I found, as I make frequency panels, I find that the intention during the creation process is very powerful when you're in the coherence of that. I was wondering if you had incorporated that in the making from the creator who's putting that together with a hands-on while you're creating with the magnets, the flower of life.
Well, that's a great question, because in some of what I was talking about, when I was talking about the lab that I put together, the Chrysalis lab, the signia is put all intention to attention, right? So what the intention for me was always, it got to a point. I was had a chat with Katie earlier on this about, I was having so much fun because I could go into that building because everything was blocked out with my intention. I was looking for a certain answer for how I was going to get a cut and I could go in there, and it wouldn't happen all the time. But if I went in with a strong enough intention, as you were just saying, what would happen is I'd get in there with no distraction. It'd be like being able to super meditate because there's no distraction. And I'd get a shiver from the bottom of my spine up, just like this, just like that. And that was like a phone call went out. Literally within days, I would get what I was looking for, either a phone call, a contact person. It would just come to me. It was pure manifestation to the nines, because I was also in the world where I checked out. I had no other distractions in my life. I wasn't doing business. I was calm. I was enjoying myself. I was in joy. And these things were coming. And that's for all of us. But we don't all get to do that, where we just get everything off of us. Like, think about people's lives. And it's like the circus coming to town. I look at people's lives, and it's like, the clowns are flipping, stuff's going over here. It's crazy. It's crazy how people, what they have going on around them, right? And they can't help it. I'm I'm not knocking it, but when you get that away from you, it's incredible what you're talking about as to what you can do and accomplish with your intention.
And also, do you know what exact frequency that you're creating with that, or is it a range in this cell?
Yes, yeah. It's basically about in what's called and I know that you guys would be familiar. You're familiar with pulse electric magnetic frequency, PEMF, right? So so it basically is following that 1 hertz of the 0 to 30 hertz on the pulse. Now it doesn't have the pulse because it's not in motion, right? It's staying still. But we're now exciting. I'm going to show you a video about the honey, and then I'm going to show you the mothership that I invented that does have the pulse. It's the one that generates all the frequencies, and that's what we treat the honey with. And that is in full motion. It's 3 cylinders in tetrahedral alignment with all those magnets in 3D. And depending on what speed I put it on, I can change the exact frequencies on that pulse electric magnetic frequencies. Yeah. And I'll show you what it looks like. What we can do is play that video, which will show you what we do to the honey, and you'll be introduced to that. It's the mothership that the cell came out of. The pure wave cell comes out of that instrument because it looks like a little Ark of the Covenant. It's about that size. And what it can do health-wise, I don't get into that here because I can't get that to people. It's very personal to us. But what it was able to do when I was doing my test was unbelievable, really, for health-wise, even for myself and use. It's phenomenal because we all can use those frequencies, right?
And these videos are on YouTube or your site?
They're on our site. Yeah, if you go to 4rbs.com, all the videos that we're showing you here, maybe not the story we remember, but the one we showed you and this other, and plus other ones, plus podcasts are on there so you can hear different perspective of different podcasters, asking different questions. But yes, they're all on. The beekeeper stuff, we don't have a lot of it on there, but they're on YouTube. There's 3 YouTubes that we have going, and we're getting more and more out. But I'd love you to see that. That's what we could play is that honey video, and everybody will be able to see where we get the honey from and how we treat it and what makes it so special.
Thanks.
If you are a honey connoisseur, you'll want to experience Pure Wave Energized honey. It comes from the open pastures of the Grey Highlands, located in southern Ontario, Canada. The unique blend of nectar from wildflowers are a favorite for honeybees that pollinate open fields, farms, and forests within the Greater Golden Horseshoe Greenbelt. These bees produce one of the finest honeycombs in the world and are now under great stress. Pesticides are weakening the bee's immune system. It contributes to the growth of deadly pathogens. But there's a solution to that problem. This Pure Wave cell. It generates a quantum force field of spiral magnetic energy. It has been scientifically proven to deactivate pathogens. When placed inside a beehive, apiaries report an abundance of honey and healthy bees that survive Canada's frigid winters. The honey that comes from Pure Wave hives is raw, creamed, unpasteurized, and then energized using a special patented quantum technology. Pure Wave honey is a premium private labeled product packaged in a licensed facility that meets FDA and Canadian Food Inspection Agency regulations. It is then shipped to warehouses in Canada and the USA for further processing using the Chrysalis Energizer. The honey is bathed in the special frequencies originating from rotating neodymium magnets. The Chrysalis Energizer is manufactured here near Toronto, Canada. This is where the secret ingredient of a unique patented quantum technology was developed and brought to reality. It was originally developed as a Class 1 medical device.
What we're really dealing with here is magnetism into a geometric form and then putting motion to it. So what we have in the instrument is a very specifically cut neodymium magnets, very powerful, set into a sacred geometry shape, 12 of them inside. Then we put this into a situation into 3D. Then we place it where there's 5 of these placed in sequence in here.
Magnetic viewing film displays the pattern of the magnets that pulse the magnetic field as it rotates inside the 3 cylinders. The field intensity increases proportionally with the frequency that is selected. Years of research went into testing the device to determine the ideal frequencies and duration of exposure to fully saturate the honey. A magnetic probe attached to an oscilloscope shows the dominant frequency and the unique shape of the quantum wave. Electrography can be used to visualize the effect of the rotating magnetic field. A vial of honey is placed on the energizer. The corona discharge shows the amount of electrical conductivity of the raw honey. After energization, the entire content of the vial has become more conductive to electron flow. The electrographic image of the honey is used on the logo.
We wanted to then draw from what we've configured into the instrument and put it into a standalone unit, and this is what we use to go in the beehives.
A pure wave cell will emit a corresponding frequency and magnetic field if you rotate it. If you move the cell over your body, it will absorb your bioelectric field. The meter shows over 2,000 volts per meter emanating from inside the cell. Both the pure wave cell and the honey are sold directly to the consumer online. And you will find their products in stores that feature apiary products too. They are manufactured by 4R Bees, a company that provides a solution to beekeepers that want to maintain healthy, disease-free hives. Connoisseurs all over the world appreciate their energized nectar from nature.
Wow. I love that you use the word chrysalis in your lab and your shipping. It's all about transformation, right?
Yeah. It's something, taking something that's one way and changing it forever to not ever resemble what it was. It is a true transformation, yeah. Which is, I've always been fascinated by that, you know. And just so I didn't want to forget. So that honey is bathed at about 7.43 hertz PEMF, right? That like in that PEMF field, that is the frequency that is bathing that honey, right? Which all that is it's charging it to give it that, and then of course the honey is of a high quality and it goes out from there. But that's basically what we're exposing it to from the chrysalis E. Now that instrument is what we all, when I did the research, we'd all sit around that within, it has a 4-foot radius out before it starts to weakening. And I would sleep with that in the building, like sleep all night, because then you're in 4th dimension, right? Sleeping is in your 4th state. And that's where all healing takes place, is there. And so the combination of sleeping beside that instrument with certain frequencies was, to say the least, was an amazing, amazing experience.
Incredible. Well, and for everyone who's interested in purchasing some honey, Lisa Richards, who's on here, thank you so much. She set up a code. You can get 20% off using Earth Bishop. And I think some of you have already purchased them online, and that discount covers the shipping. So you know what I'll do when I send out my newsletter tomorrow or Friday with this video posted on my channel, I will put everything on there, and I'll put it underneath the description of this chess club video, where you can buy the products in the Pure Wave and the discount code and all this other information tonight. Brent, is there anything else people can do to help you in your mission?
Well, first of all, it's just such gratitude to be able to speak to you, and the support has been phenomenal coming to us. And what we want to do is just feed back more to you. So as you're supporting us with honey and the Pure Wave cell, what we'll be doing this year is we're starting a huge mission where we want to go out and we're doing massive campaigns for, they'll just be for pledges as opposed for just for products. And we're looking to put out about 50,000 cells to, hundreds of thousands of beekeepers. And then we're getting into like, just billions and billions of bees, right? Because we give this all out at no charge. That's why the beekeepers flood to us, because they don't purchase anything. It's given to them. Now, they have to be a proper beekeeper and they have to be able to know what they're doing. And what we do is we make sure that we filter that, and then we start to work with them. And all they have to do is give us content back. And so we'll give you that content showing what's going on all around the world. We have on our site, our beekeeper map is on, I forget what it's under, but if you look, you'll see our beekeeper map where we have bees all over the world now. And we want to, some of the places we'd like to get more into, like South America, different parts of Asia, but we're getting there. But we want to get a lot in Canada and the States, and we want to support that. And you by working with us and pledging, and we'll have more things to do. We're getting seeding out, and you can get involved by the beekeeper program and so forth like that. And we'll feed back to you under our program and give you all that, what's from the field, what the beekeepers are doing, how we're making changes. Bee rescue is another one where we're going to support these groups of people that go into homes and rescue the bees. So that instead of you killing bees that are bothering your home, you call them, they come and take them at no charge from your home, and we support them. So that's another whole it's called bee rescue, right? So all of these things add to, this layer. So we really appreciate you listening to us.
Wow. Thanks so much for, being on a mission and bringing real solutions and heart-based solutions to the table. It's incredible work that you do. And so everyone, please support them and the bees and share this information, because I think
that's great.
A big problem is ignorance with this. People don't even know because they're so busy and they're so pulled in millions of directions. They have no idea how these insecticides and the pesticides are ruining the bee population, which destroys everything in our planet, basically. So, and I look forward to trying your honey too. So thank you, Lisa, for setting up the code. And like I said, I'll be sending out all of this information in a newsletter tomorrow or Friday. So check your email. And next month for Chess Club, since we've had guests back to back, next month's Chess Club won't be recorded. It will be a discussion. And I don't record the discussions because I like everyone to come and feel very safe and open. And so you have to join that one live if you want to attend. And I'll send that information out soon as well. So thank you all for your time and coming together. It's powerful when we're all together and in our presence. And please support For Our Bees and share the information. So thanks so much.
I just have one more question. I'm glad you mentioned not putting it in your tea because I would probably do exactly that.
Yeah.
But is there also a best way to take it away from food, with food? Does it matter? First thing in the morning, like any other suggestions about that? And then one other thing, I saw that you had a lip balm, and I'm always looking for a good lip balm, but I didn't see that there was anywhere to buy that. That only looked like it was in the gift, which are sold out, gift packages that are sold out.
Yes, and we did sell that out. So lip balm was limited to that. So when we were out, and we'll look to get that. We'll look into a good one because it was an excellent lip balm and we ran out of that. So we're in the search to make sure that we get that again. So we don't have it individually right now. I mean, when the gift boxes are sold out, that's it for it. But we will try to get that back on. But to your first question, was hey, try to also use a wooden spoon, not a metal spoon, when you take it out for enzyme. But yes, eat it. Generally, a spoonful. For me, I do a tablespoon, but I just eat it by itself. Sometimes I'll have like a walnut with it or something like that. But I use it because I don't have a lot of sweet. I don't have a lot of sugar in my diet now. So what I'll do is I'll use that as my sweet kind of thing. But yeah, take it by itself and use it with a spoon. But use other cheaper forms of sugar for your tea if you like that. But that's a waste. That honey is a premium, and you'll want that be for your health. Also for cuts, if you have a cut or anything, use that honey for that cut too. You know, on the surface skin, or for any kind of a rash. You know, I mean, we're not talking emphysema, but you know, something. Although, you know, who knows? But put it on for things like skin. You know, things like that. That's what you'd use that honey for.
Okay, thanks.
Great questions. Thanks, Colleen.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Brent,
okay.
I won't take up any more of your time. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thanks, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll see you next month.
Bye. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Bye.